to come in and show you some of the fundamentals. We're going to, in this class, take you through file management, drawing of walls, openings, dimensions, and how to modify some of those, and just generally get you comfortable with working within SoftPlan. We are going to be using SoftPlan 2016, which is the latest release, and you should be able to see my screen at this point. And on the screen, this is basically our title page, which you have on yours when you open up SoftPlan. This is the full SoftPlan Plus package, and so as you're taking a look at the screen, you'll see that we've got a list of projects. These would be projects that are associated with my install, my key, and so I have access to varying projects, some of them which are only going to be stored locally, which is indicated by the green dot that's listed down here. Some of these are going to be stored on the cloud. And because I have SoftPlan Plus and they are stored on the cloud, that would then allow me to go in and share a project or file with someone else that has SoftPlan and has access to the cloud via SoftPlan Plus. And then a few of these files have been set up to export as a review file, and of course the review file being a file that can then be opened up by a non-SoftPlan user for things such as punch lists, markups, notations or changes, etc., and even viewed as far as 3D is concerned, and for walkthroughs and etc. So that's basically kind of a listing here under the SoftPlan projects of what you will have. Additionally, on this title page, we will continue to update, with news feeds to you about things that are going on. Now, in this case, SoftPlan Plus content has been added as far as a new list of cabinet libraries. And so we will post that, and in this case we've given you a link to what those cabinets are, and so that's automatically the next time you open SoftPlan is going to be available to you, and we're basically just letting you know that. We'll have other news feeds in here as symbols become available, and this is typically updated on a fairly regular basis. As well as if there are shows or building information that we just want you to make aware of. Down below we have the SoftPlan Plus training video library. This is something that is also being updated on a continual basis. Most recently we have added pole barn construction and how you can do that within SoftPlan. In previous weeks we have released for remodeling of bathrooms or decks and screened-in porches and kitchens, and those are free to you and will stream straight to your system there. So this is kind of a brief overview of what you're going to see when you open up SoftPlan. Okay. Once you are here at this stage, where we want to go is into creating a new project. And this is where we get into file management, if you will. And so on the start page, I would simply come in to the create new project where it says click here to start. And when I do this, it's going to open up the new project menu for me to fill in the information. And so in this case, I will simply call this one intro to SoftPlan, okay, because that's really what we're doing today. And we'll have the location of where the file is going to be stored, typically directly to your SoftPlan projects folder, okay, although you have the ability to go in and browse and save that off-site, perhaps to another network or server, etc., okay, depending on how your office is going to be set up. I'm going to automatically copy this file to the SoftPlan cloud. What that would allow me to do is actually at the end of the Friday Fundamental today, if I wanted, I could then get your key numbers and share this file to you, and you could download that there, as well as providing a backup for me, should I need this project. Okay, the create drawing is already checked, and by default it will name the drawing for me, main floor. Now I can simply go in and overwrite this if I want to have a different name for it. That main floor would be stored in the file folder intro to SoftPlan. I'm going to check the Open 3D tab. When I do that, what it's going to do for me at this stage is SoftPlan will not only have a tab that's got my floor plan from a two-dimensional perspective, but would open a secondary tab that will allow me to see the 3D model as it unfolds. I will then be able to flip between one and the other and view the progress of the design. Down below, we will have all kinds of information we can fill in either now or at a later time that's associated to this project, such as the name of the project, the contact, perhaps that's the homeowner, address, and so on. This information, if filled out now, will then translate to the time when you go to print this with borders. In other words, the borders of the title blocks will pull the information for the project into them when you hit the file print process. And so, you know, you can, as I said, you can enter this information at any time, and rather than then having to type that same information in on, you know, 5, 6, 7 different sheets or title blocks, it will be downloaded or you know, implemented or inserted, I guess is the word, into each of those. Okay, so for now I'm going to leave that, and I'm simply going to press OK, and it will now open up and take me into the SoftPlan drawing screen. There's the two tabs that I just referred to, the main floor plan and the 3D texture tab, because I checked the box. At this stage, I need you to think of it as a complete BIM model, which is basically building information model. As we create the floor plan, we are creating a 3D model, and from that we're creating elevations and cross sections and even a bill of materials. Okay, and realistically, when you're drawing within SoftPlan, you are drawing towards a bill of materials and a model. All right. Well, you can always do shortcuts anytime you choose to do a shortcut, and which is to say replace an object by simply drawing or sketching a line. You have negated or you have shortchanged the BIM model. All right. So my goal is to get you drawing towards that. Use a wall to represent a wall. Use a cabinet to represent cabinets. And when you do that, your model will be that much more complete, and your estimate at the end is going to be that much more accurate. The drawing screen that you're looking at this stage, okay, there's going to be several, you know, terminologies that I'm going to reach for and refer to, and so to run over those for you, so that when you're dealing in the world of SoftPlan, perhaps with a support person, or you know, even with you know, a sales or myself, etc. Okay, you'll be able to use a terminology that we use, and it was a part of the manual that I emailed to you as part of the invitation. So across the top, we basically refer to these commands as located in the menu bar. So when I select on draw or erase or move, okay, that's access to the commands associated with that menu item. And as you select those, directly below it, the ribbon bar is going to update to reflect what menu bar item you selected. So in this case, when I select dimension, I would expect the ribbon bar to reflect only dimensions. Okay, if I want to draw items, I'm going to go back to draw and select objects associated with the draw menu bar. Okay, and so this will update on the fly depending on what menu item that you select. All right, so we have menu bar and we have ribbon. Directly below the ribbon bar, okay, is actually the toolbar. And the toolbar is fully customizable. It's one-click access to items that would be located under, you know, the menu ribbon bar submenus. So for example, the dimension command can be accessed with a single click from here, as opposed to selecting dimension and followed by dimension over here. Okay, it's just a quicker, more efficient way of accessing a menu item within the program. And I say it's fully customizable because no two designers, architects, builders, etc. are going to draw the same way. And so in time, what you will want to do is go in and set up this toolbar to represent commands you reach for, okay, more often than not. And so in essence, set this up that makes you efficient. For example, in a real working version of SoftPlan, because I use the mouse for a lot of my zooming, I can remove, for my purposes, some of the zoom commands that are associated to the toolbar and replace them with commands that I'm more likely to select, such as a repeat edit, which basically duplicates one editing change to another like object. All right. Along this, beside the list of toolbar items that are there, this is basically called the status bar. And the status bar is going to basically list for us whatever commands we have selected. And depending on the command that you select, will give you quick access into items associated with that. So what I mean by that is, if I selected draw and I were to pick wall, okay, so simply draw and then wall from the ribbon bar, it's going to give me access to the wall menu. Now the wall type menu is basically at this stage preloaded with some of the more universally used wall types that you would have in construction. And so if I select the partition 3.5 inches, which is just a 2x4 wall with drywall on either side, the status bar will list that command for me, and in addition to that command would give me quick access to all of the wall types associated with that function. Okay, and so that's what the status bar is going to do for you. List the wall type in this case and give me access to changing the wall type, on the fly. It would also give me information such as the tape measure. And you're going to see in just a couple of minutes when I begin sketching, I'm going to refer to a phrase, sketch and edit. And in a lot of cases, this is something that you need to learn within the software realm of SoftPlan, which is we want you to sketch out the approximate wall length, because we're going to allow you to efficiently edit the length of that wall type at a later time. So what we're trying not to do is block you in on your design. We want you to freeform it, and so on. So the status bar will list the function and will list the items associated with that function. In the case of a wall this time, it's listing length of wall and angle that I'm drawing at. In a more complex class, I would teach about building options and layers. To simplify this at this stage, because this really is just an introduction to SoftPlan, layers is a visibility control. Whether or not you want to see it on the floor plan, yes or no, for all intents and purposes. Okay, and so when I click on that, I would have a list of layers, all right, and if it's visible, it prints. Okay, so that's in its simplest format what that will do for you. The building options is layers, but from a three-dimensional or an object realm, which is to say, okay, if the option is turned on, it's going to not only show up in the plan view, but it's also going to impact the construction of the model. So you would see it in 3D, it would list out in the bill of materials. So that's the primary difference on this. Layers, even if it's turned off, would still show up in 3D and would still list in the bill of materials. If it's in a building option and turned off, it's removed from those other views or aspects of the drawing. Okay. As you're drawing within SoftPlan, we teach you to draw towards the building model. And so I'm old enough to harken back to drawing on the board, and so I would have a sheet of vellum, if you will, that would be the floor plan, which would have all of the dimensions and the construction notes, and then I would have a secondary sheet of vellum that would basically just be the outline of the walls and have the roof outline on it, and then there would be a third sheet of vellum, if you will, that would have things like electrical layouts on it, etc. And in essence, if there was a change to that floor plan, I would actually need to pull up possibly as many as 3 or 4 or 5 sheets of vellum and go in and make that change, 5 times, so to speak. In this case, what we do is we store everything as part of the main floor plan drawing. And then what we do is we view it through different modes. So when I'm drawing walls, windows, dimensions, I do that inside drawing mode. And when I want to put the roof on, I change modes. I'm still a part of the main floor plan, understand, but now I'm going to look at it through a lens that only sees it from a roof perspective. And then when I want to put electrical in, I will view it through the electrical lens, so to speak. And by doing it this way, one drawing, storing all of the information, if a structural change needs to be made, a wall, even something as simple as moving a wall a foot, I change it in one place. It updates the roof, it updates the electrical, the floor system, etc. Okay, so we are going to teach you to basically draw with that in mind. One main floor plan stores all of the information. Okay, so that's basically, again, menu bar, ribbon bar, toolbar, status, and then you've got your options, layers, and visibility controls. Okay. Down the left-hand side is what's called the navigation menu, and the navigation menu is something we're going to reach for plenty in the coming minutes here. Okay, at the top we have the model, and whatever is stored as part of the model is what you're going to be able to see in, say, your 3D, your elevations, your sections. If it's not stored in the model, it's still a valid drawing. You're just choosing not to put it in the model stack to be able to view it. Under the navigation menu is where you're going to have access to generating elevations from the floor plan, cross sections from the floor plans, interior views as things like kitchens and bathrooms get designed. Okay, it's here that site plans will be able to be navigated to. All right, different various 3D views. Your soft list or bill of materials will all be generated from this. It basically gives you access to what do you want to see about the floor plan or the model that you're creating at this stage. You've drawn a wall, you want to see how many studs it takes, you go down to the soft list. You've got a building footprint, you want to see what the elevation looks like, come to the navigation menu, select the elevation. Okay, so this will give you access to all of that. The large white space here in the middle, that's our workspace. And that's where we're going to be doing the bulk of our drawing from this point forward. Okay, this workspace by default is 210 feet by 140 feet, and it is fully customizable. You can take this up to 8 miles by 8 miles if necessary. So, in time, depending on the size and scope of your project, you may want to increase that or decrease it on a project by project basis. Okay, from the main floor plan, we are going to come in and we're just going to learn a little bit about that sketch and edit that I'm telling you about as far as, drawing within SoftPlan. Now, one of the things that you will see, okay, when you're using your mouse is that the left mouse, if you will, is used to, left mouse button, excuse me, is used to execute all of your commands. You simply click on the ribbon bar to pick what it is you want to do, and then you come down to the drawing screen and you left click to execute the command. And so in essence, if I select draw followed by wall, I can, from this list of wall types, pick what it is I want to do. So in this case, the 2x6 brick wall. The plan preview shows me what the wall type is going to look like, and at that stage I can select OK. And as I said, the status bar will list what the command is and what the wall type is that I'm going to be drawing. As I move my cursor onto the drawing screen, my cursor, I'm basically hovering up here, will show you what the wall length is and the angle I'm about to draw. As I position my cursor at the start point, I would simply click the left mouse button. That's going to initiate the start point of the wall. As I move my cursor left to right, I'm basically moving on an 1/8 inch grid scale at this stage. Okay? And I'm approximating the length that I want to draw this at. What we don't want to get you into is the mindset of slowing down the design process because editing is so difficult, and so you want to get it right off the bat. We want you to freeform design, and then we'll make the dimension changes simple for you, simple single-click edits, so that you can just seamlessly flow through whatever it is you're attempting to create. So when I get to approximately 36 feet, I would left click the mouse again. Now what you will see at this stage is I have a wall on the screen, and depending on whether I move my cursor up or down, the brick texture is following. And if I just zoom that in a little bit so you can see it, right now the cursor is below the black line that represents the midpoint of this wall, so brick is going to be placed towards the bottom of the screen. And if I move my cursor above that black line, it's going to move or put the brick facing towards the top. So it's a 3-click process. If I do it from the top, it's simply click to start, move the cursor the length that I want. I'm honing in on give or take 36 feet, okay? And I click. I would move my cursor above that horizontal line and click. It will place the 2x6 brick wall on the drawing screen for me. with brick facing towards the top of the screen. That's all left clicks at this stage. Now what SoftPlan will do at this point is we assume you want to continue drawing that wall at this stage. We didn't cancel the function, and what we will do is we will automatically snap to the endpoint of the previous wall drawn. So all I did was simply, I didn't click anything, I just moved my cursor out from the endpoint of the first wall drawn, and as I do, it's going to automatically assume that the wall should be pulled from there. SoftPlan will also align like materials, so brick is now aligning to brick, drywall to drywall, stud to stud, etc. And so when I get to approximately 24 feet, I can then click. Again, the trace process would continue from this point forward. So I could simply trace anything that I wanted, okay, at this point, left, right, up, and down, just simply by single clicking. Now, at any stage, if I want to stop the command, okay, so I want to stop drawing walls, but, at this stage, but not cancel the full function, I can simply right click. And when I right click, it's still in draw wall, okay, but at this point it stops the pulling the wall from this point and allows me to move my cursor to a new point to begin drawing. Now, to understand a little bit about the drawing walls within the program and different angles, etc., by default we will lock you into a horizontal and vertical ortho at this stage. And so simply when I click to start and move my cursor left to right, okay, that fell within that, and then I automatically moved it down vertically because that's the direction I wanted to go. If you choose to want to have a wall drawn at an angle, and this applies to any object that you might draw within the program, all right, you can remove what's called the lock feature, to suit the drawing function that you're doing. So for example, when you select a command, we automatically close the padlock, okay? So you can see it at this stage, and that means you're going to be drawing, horizontally or vertically in an ortho, type snap. If I click this, you'll see that my padlock is now on an angle at 45 degrees. And what we have done is we have now allowed you to move your cursor at 15-degree increments. If you watch this tape measure in the upper, status bar right here, as I move the cursor around, okay, it's moving at 15-degree increments. If I hit this a second time, I then can freeform in any angle that I want. And so that's how within the program you can draw effectively at varying angles to create bay windows or whatever your design may call for. Again, I'm going to simply click start point to end point, move my cursor to one side or the other side of the center line of the wall, and click, and it would automatically place the brick. The ortho snap or lock is completely free form at this stage, so we start at the end point of the previous wall and allow you to draw at any angle that you want. To cancel it, once again, right click and you would stop. Now, no one is above making a mistake or wanting to make a change during the design phase. You put something in and you determine that you want to remove that. And so in addition to drawing, one of the things that you will use a lot of is the undo command. Now you can see that my cursor is hovering over the little blue arrow pointing back towards the left side of the screen, and it tells me undo wall. And it's basically pulling down what it's about to do. And if I click that icon, it's going to remove the previous item that I drew. And so again, undo would remove the vertical wall. And if I did it again, I would remove the last horizontal wall that I drew. So you can use the undo command to remove things quickly. All right, and if you want to put something back, then you can simply hit the redo, which would basically put that wall back. All right, and so you can just undo or redo depending on the direction you want to go. Now, I only have 2 walls at this stage drawn, okay? So what I would like to do is continue drawing at this stage. And so a tool that you will use a lot of if you are new to SoftPlan, okay, is the Draw Select tool in the upper left-hand corner. Because what it allows you to do is go in and select any item on the drawing and quickly begin drawing it elsewhere. This is a tool I use a lot of. For example, most houses have, 2 to 3 bathrooms within them, right? Within a standard typical design. And so you may have a toilet or commode already drawn in one bathroom. Rather than taking the time to go through draw, followed by symbol, followed by bathroom, and followed by finding the toilet, you could simply press the Draw Select tool, pick the toilet, and draw it elsewhere. Okay, it's like an intuitive copy command in some ways, except it takes all of the editing items with it. So in this case, I could select Draw Select. And one of the things that I want to point out to you as I hover over the ribbon bar is many of the commonly used commands are going to have a shortcut set up for them. So you can see that the tooltip tells you Draw Select, draw item to, or select item to draw, but it also has the letter S located under it. And the letter S acts as a shortcut to that item. And so this is why I say it's a tool you will use a lot of. So in this case, I can hit the letter S. The function tells me select item to draw, which case I can then select this wall. I can now position my cursor at the end point of the wall and click. I am now drawing the 2x6 brick wall to finish out my design. Okay, and so it puts the walls on. So I have my auto dimension currently turned off. I'm going to press the auto dimension command to turn this on so that my dimensions are now going to be shown. And in a perfect world, you're going to have this turned on so that as you draw items, you're going to be able to go in and sketch, and the auto dimensions will pull off for you. Once you have this pulled up, I'm going to select the 3D texture tab, and you'll see that I've got basically the brick walls of the house, okay, shown. And if I were to come down here to the 3D viewer and just hit any one of these blue triangles, okay, it's going to zoom me in so that I can see the house from from the top down, looking at a 45-degree angle. You can draw within 3D. All right, so you have the capabilities of doing that. You can make modifications and changes within 3D. So for example, to demonstrate this, I could come in through Erase and Item Erase. And I'm going to remove the last 2 walls that I just drew, okay, so that we're back to just these 2 walls. And you can see, there they are. All right, if I come back into the 3D texture mode and I pick Draw, and there's the Select tool again, or I could simply go to Wall and pick the wall type menu. When I do that, you will see that I will get a grid on my 3-dimensional grass there. And those are basically 10 by 10 blocks. So if you're sketching, okay, within 3D, because that speaks to you more than drawing within the 2D, or the design just lends itself to that, all right, you will have the ability to guesstimate, what direction or how long you are drawing something. And in this case, we will also pull out, as you can see, a tape measure that shows me at this stage I've drawn this wall 35 feet 8 1/4 inches. I have the blue lines which indicate the direction and the ortho snap. And as I move this, watch as I move this wall left or right to left, when the blue line disappears, it tells me when I've hit the end point or perpendicular to that corner. And so I can then click and run this cursor up to the wall and click. And so in a quick, method, I can now go in and, I've got some of my walls drawn. Now, I got a little sloppy as far as this corner is concerned. The dimensions are pulled off, and so this leads me into making changes, okay, when things don't 100% line up with where you want them to be. All right, I'm going to zoom in, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to use what's called the Adjust feature. So as you're designing within SoftPlan, if you go to the Move command and you select Adjust, the Adjust feature acts like a stretch command, if you will. And so what it allows you to do is simply position your cursor close to the endpoint of a given object, in this case the wall, and click. And as I move that, it's going to basically stretch or adjust that wall's length, and you can see the auto dimension calling that out for me. And so again, I could adjust or stretch this wall, okay, away from that corner. Now again, I can do the same thing inside 3D. If I zoom this out just a little bit, and I'm just going to use the little minus sign here to zoom me out, I can go to move and adjust. As I click on the wall type, it will give me these little indicators, the diamonds, which will allow me to now stretch, okay, where I'm, the object or the wall in this case, and adjust them one to the other. And so whether I'm doing it inside 3D or whether I'm doing it inside 2D, the dimensions are updating on the fly for us, okay, automatically as we, manipulate the design. As I say, the goal of SoftPlan is not to force you to design at a slower pace or to, be intimidated by changes. We want you to be able to design and change as your creative juices flow and the program adapts to what you want it to do. Okay, once I have got the actual floor plan drawn, let's just talk a little bit about zooming around on the model. Okay, you will see that I've already been zooming in and out a little bit as I make changes. All right, there are some commands up here in the the list of icons that we've got here, and the plus and the minus will zoom you in and will zoom you out, centered about the model. I tend to actually reach for the mouse to do that, and what I do is I basically position my cursor over the objects or area that I want to bring to a larger zoom scale, and I would simply roll the mouse wheel. Okay, if I roll it away from me, it's going to incrementally zoom in, and if I roll the mouse wheel towards me, it's going to incrementally zoom out. Okay, and so simply by doing that, you can zoom in on corners or, rooms on a larger design that you want to, focus in on. And again, as you zoom out, it's going to, zoom to different scales. If going back to that same mouse wheel, if you press it down, you will see you get the grip set hand, and it will allow you to pan around the model. Okay, so in this case, I'm simply dragging or panning the model to the center of the screen. This is helpful for when you're making dimension changes or, checking dimensions. So for example, if I'm zoomed in on this corner here and I see the dimensions are pulling from the outside of the brick, and I want to go check the opposite corner, I can simply hold down the mouse wheel and pan left to right and take a look at that corner as well. Okay, so a lot of your zooming can simply be done using the mouse within SoftPlan, and just simply, as I say, hold it down and zoom in or zoom out. Okay, and so I'm going to, as I begin to zoom this out, get it to the largest possible scale. Now, a quick way of zooming your drawing, okay, so that it fills the screen, and it is a tool that I will use a lot of, is the zoom extent command. So this is an icon I would leave in that toolbar, if you will, all right, because I think you're going to reach for it a lot. When you click zoom extent, it will blow your drawing up to the largest possible zoom scale on the screen, including dimensions and, all of the objects, notes and so on, so that you can see it. Okay, so as soon as I do this, it's going to zoom me out so that I can see everything on the plan. Now, going in and editing dimensions is kind of the next logical step when you're laying a plan out. Let's get the overall footprint set, right? And so what I will do is I will simply come in and right-click on any object. In this case, when I right-click on the dimension, the quick select menu will open here, and it will give me functions that are associated with the object that I'm hovering over. So in this case, with a dimension, edit is at the top because it's something you're going to do a lot of, as far as that's concerned. So when I click the edit function, it's going to pull this dimension box up for me as it relates to this dimension on screen. Currently, the dimension is 37 feet and change. I can now go in and type in what the new dimension is going to be. So I would simply type in here 36, and I have to put the foot marker in. okay, the single hash, if you will. Now you can do it one of two ways, okay, hitting the minus sign on the keyboard, on the right side of a full keyboard will insert foot, or you can simply hit the single hash, or single quote, which will get you there. The key here is you have to put it in. If you don't, we'll assume inches, and that will become 36 inches, and your house suddenly will be much more narrower than what you were anticipating. When you type in the 36-foot change, ultimately we're going to make a choice of whether we want to adjust the left or the right end of the horizontal string. And by that I mean, when I select the right end, it's going to adjust whatever this extension line is adjusted to. So this wall would either move left or right depending on what this number is relative to the new change, or vice versa. And if you select the center, it's going to basically just split the difference to get that from 37 feet, 3 inches and a quarter to 36 feet even. Okay, so in this case, if I hit the right arrow key, it's going to adjust that wall and move it to the left approximately 1'3", and change, okay, so that it updates the new dimension to 36 feet. And if I come in and I right click and edit this dimension, I can now type in what that's going to be, let's say 24 feet. Now, beyond just the typing in the dimension and the move arrows that you have here, let me just briefly explain some things that I think you're going to want to know as far as going forward with working within SoftPlan. Today, we will not have multiple floors. We're basically introducing a few fundamentals. But ultimately, at some point, you're going to have a multi-story building, right? And so you could have a basement, let's say, or a crawl space. You'll have a main floor plan and a second floor plan. You will have the ability, if all three of those drawings that I just mentioned were, stacked in the model, to link the floors so that when you make a change on one of the three plans, all three plans are updated with the exact same change. It's a huge time saver, and it eliminates, an error being made whereby you make the change on one drawing and don't make the same change on another drawing. This keeps consistency throughout the drawing. Okay, so that's a really big one that you'll want to know. Okay. Other things and I won't touch on everything in a menu box, but the add plus minus is going to be big for those of you that do remodels, right? So you're going to have an existing structure, and you'll maybe want to add that plus or minus there in front of a dimension. All right, so it's a simple check right there. And lastly, the one thing that I will point out here is the ability to show text. So if you need to have some text, as a part of that dimension, you can check this box and you could then type in whatever the text is to go with the dimension change that you're making, okay? And it would actually show up on the drawing. All right, this is where you can also get into rounding the dimensions. All right, so if you're doing a preliminary plan and you're just looking to have even dimensions and no fractions, you could simply do that. All right, understand a 2x4 stud is 3.5 inches as is defined in the real world as well as part of the plan. So if you choose to not show fractions, it didn't mean that everything got rounded up. It just means that we're not showing them and we're rounding the dimensions to that, but the stud is still 3.5 inches. Okay, so at this stage, the big change I made was 24 feet. I would hit the down arrow key and it would update that, for us. A command that you will use a lot of within SoftPlan is called the cleanup feature. Now what the cleanup does, for all intents and purposes, and we've got kind of it's a throwback almost, the fact that we have a drafting brush, right, for an icon. But what it does is it goes through and it doesn't just sweep the eraser bits off the vellum, it actually goes through and calculates the entire drawing. Okay, so when I press this button, walls that are within 6 inches of one another, if for some reason they were not joined, would join. A commode or toilet, if it were not sitting on top of the subfloor, would recalculate to sit on top of the subfloor. The roof on a cleanup would build the bird's mouth and heel height, etc., accordingly for the design. So the cleanup is a big feature, and the biggest change you'll see right now is where the extension lines appear to not be connected to the dimension strings. When I click this, that is part of that calculation for us there, and will automatically do that there. All right, so I'm going to click save. The little red save icon in the upper left is telling me I hadn't saved in the last 5 minutes, and so I will do that. Okay. With the 36 by 24 box set up, the next thing that I'm going to do is just simply come in and draw some walls. And when I do this, it will then allow me to talk a little bit about dimension options with you today. And so what I will do is I'm going to, I think the last time I went draw a wall, so this time I'll simply right click on a blank portion of the drawing screen. When I do that, what you will see is it's going to pull up this quick select menu for me. Okay, this is different than when I did a right click over an object and it pulled up only functions that are associated with that specific item. In this case, on a blank portion of the screen, if I do a right click, what you'll see is it's basically all of the drawing items, that would be located, plus a couple of extras tacked onto the bottom, such as dimensions and notes. So when I right click and I select this, I can now go to draw wall. And from this list, you'll see all of my standard walls being listed below the dotted line. The 2x6 brick is a wall already existing, and so we list that there. Okay, and so what I will do is from this wall type menu, I will select the partition 3.5 inches. And when I select that, I will press OK. And at this stage, this is where really close counts. Our cleanup feature basically tells you only need to be close to snap to that wall. So within 6 inches, or about the size of the cursor that's there. And so I'll get close, but I don't necessarily need to be right on that wall. And I will simply move my cursor down and partition off the left third of the plan and click. And now I will simply position my cursor where I want the next wall to start, and using the tape measure as a guide, run the cursor left or right about 10 feet and click. As it did with the brick wall, it will assume the end point of the previous wall is the start point, and I can now move my cursor up to the brick wall and click. The cursor is automatically freed up as it basically completes a T-join with the exterior wall. And so now I have basically have partitioned off 3 rooms within the plan. Okay. From this stage, I can now go in using dimension, followed by the dimension function, move my cursor onto the drawing screen, and begin to pull dimensions. Now, in its simplest state, again, close counts. You could simply, and I'm going to exaggerate this, but I can click and start out here and run the cursor all the way across. And you can see I started about 8 feet left of the wall, and I'm finishing 8 feet right of the wall. And when I do that, it's going to just simply pull the dimensions between the objects that it crosses. You can also just simply move the cursor onto the drawing screen. I'm going to click, move the cursor about 6 inches left to right, and click, and what it will do is expand until it finds objects that it can hit and pull a dimension between them. So it's a quick way of doing it, whether you over exaggerate as I did, okay, so that's a quick way of doing it, or you're in a tight space and you just want to have a dimension for that room, and you're trying not to engage other objects within the plan. And so I'll just have a couple of dimensions pulled. Okay. Once the dimensions are pulled up on the drawing screen, they can then go in and be modified or edited. Now, a little bit about dimension options. You will see at this stage right now that we have dimensions that are basically running from outside of brick to inside of stud, from inside of stud to edge of stud, and so on all the way across. And certainly from a homeowners and design type perspective, edge of stud to edge of stud allows us to see the room size. Some of you, however, may want to run your dimensions to outside of stud on an exterior wall, or maybe to one side of stud on an interior wall, and those are changes that are easily made. If I come in through the I'm under the dimension from the menu bar, and I select dimension format. When I select the dimension format, it's going to pull this dialog up for me right here. And from this dialog at this stage, I'm able to now go in and globally change how my exterior and interior walls are going to be dimensioned. So in this case, an interior wall, which is currently running to edge, as we can see here and here, I could select the arrow selector and go to either center or single. So let's just say I went to center for right now for the framer. Makes it easy. Drop a chalk line, frame the wall, right? Once I have changed the interior wall to center, what I would do is simply come down to the convert option here and click. And when I do that, it will go through and update the plan to reflect the new change. Without selecting the convert option, it would only impact new dimensions going forward. So again, from the dimension format menu, I could change interior walls this time to single side. I'm going to change the exterior walls. And again, this is globally. All walls are being kind of included in this one, change right here. Okay, but I can now go to stud inside. So I'm expecting to go to one side of stud, okay, the inside here, and one side of wall for the partition. And from on this dialog down towards the bottom, you can see whether it's going to go to right and bottom, top and left, and I simply make those selections based on how I choose to have it dimensioned on the plan. And I can now once again select convert, and it would update the dimensions. I show you this because I don't want you to design within SoftPlan where you have one plan for the homeowner and a different plan for the framer. Because inevitably what happens is you could wind up making a change with the homeowner, and any number of reasons the same change doesn't get applied to the framing plan that goes out to the field. Okay? Because you've been keeping two drawings. It's easy to sit with the homeowner right now and say, okay, your dimensions for that room are going to, in this case here, it's going to run at, let me change this to 12 feet to the right. And then when it comes time to go to the framer, we change, prior to printing, we change that to the center and convert, and the framer gets the dimension to the center line of the wall so that he can just drop the chalk line and go from there. Okay, so that's just, modifying the dimensions to suit, basically what the plan is being used for at that time. All right, so I will convert that back and change it there. The dimensions you'll notice are fairly large. Okay, by default I had enlarged dimensions turned on. It makes them easier to read when you are zoomed out to a far away, zoom scale, right? But when you're zoomed in, rolling the mouse wheel in, these dimensions, because of their size, could technically be a little unruly to work with. But this is really just a toggle. Under the options menu, there's an option there called enlarge dimensions. Okay, and if I click this, all right, it acts as just a toggle. Either they're going to be enlarged or they're not. And there is a keyboard shortcut, and in our full training classes, we take you through how those are set up, and you can even customize your own, etc. In time, you'll learn them from memory. We even show you how to print them all out. But in this case right here, I'll just simply show you, once again, on the tooltip, Control Q is listed, and if I were to hold down and hit Control Q on my keyboard, it just acts as a toggle to go back and forth. So now I can moving my cursor, left to right. I could come in here and I could type in, 9 feet for the, room size, and it leaves 12 feet left over. Edit this dimension here and type in 5 feet and hit the down arrow key, and it's now going to give me what that new dimension is per se, as it pertains to the room itself. Okay, and so I've quickly created at this point, if for all intents and purposes, a small room which could eventually be a bathroom. Okay, so I will hit the zoom extent, which takes me out to the overall dimensions here, and again I could go into the 3D and see what our model looks like. Again, using the 3D camera controls down here on the left hand side, this is where you can hit any one of these triangles and it will zoom you around the model. Okay, giving you kind of that 45-degree angle top-down view that, that we're looking for. You can also hold down the mouse wheel and you can pan around the drawing or orbit around the drawing in the same way. Rolling the mouse wheel away from you will zoom you or step you incrementally towards the model, and rolling it towards you, you will step away from the model. Okay, there's a lot of shortcuts to go with this. The arrow keys will do the same thing, where I'm hitting the up arrow key will move me towards the model, and hitting the down arrow key will move me away from the model. All right, so here in this case, I'm just, moving in towards the house using the arrow keys on the keyboard. Okay, back inside the main floor plan, I want to take you in here in the final 10 minutes of the fundamental and just take you through adding openings. And we will draw openings from multiple places, okay? And so I'm going to start here inside the floor plan, and I will select draw followed by opening to get there, or I can right click and select opening from here. Okay, either way does the same thing. And when I click that, it's going to open up the openings library, and basically the libraries themselves are listed alphabetically, okay, on the left-hand side. And so from here, I could come down and select the library double hung. Now, these are all generic windows that are listed here, and so when I click on double hung, the product code, or the way the window was defined and it is acknowledged within the libraries, is by this name, okay, and the name basically gives you a hint to what the dimension sizes are. And so in this case, I could scroll this down and select, let's say, a 54 by 60 double hung 2, or in other words, a twin. Okay, and once I have done that, if there are multiple, versions of this window that I want to draw, I would not actually close, necessarily the dialog, because I may want to draw different sizes of the double hung, but I can bring my cursor onto the drawing screen. And as I do, I can click. And as I, click, it's going to insert the window, and inside the wall itself, it'll adjust the framing. It's going to put the jack studs in. It's going to call out the header for us, okay, and that's going to impact our bill of materials, all right, just by doing that. And you will see automatically the dimensions are going to be pulled off on the floor plan, because as I did early on in the class, I turned the auto dimension on. All right, and so again, I can return to the library and either change to a different window, or in this case, simply position my cursor to draw a second version of that window. I only left this open so that I could change to a new type of opening or new size of window, and once I do that, I can position my cursor where I want it to be placed and click. And as I say, the dimensions are going to be pulled off. If I view this inside 3D, you can see the windows are being, inserted into the walls. I can hit the blue triangle right here, and then holding down the mouse wheel, just kind of rotate or orbit that in such a way that I can see the window. Now, you can draw from within 3D. So in this case, I could select draw. I can select opening. It gives me access to the exact same list of libraries. And in this case, I'm going to introduce to you the list of manufacturers that are there. This is a huge time saver long term. Most of us have a couple of different manufacturers we predominantly reach for. One's not better than the other in our eyes. It's just really what we've grown accustomed to using and we offer. Okay, so in this case here, I can select, from my list of libraries, one of the manufacturers that's there. And then based on the manufacturer that I pick, I can then select the library or product code library that is associated with, and then these codes call out, if you will, what the size of the opening is going to be. And so when I position my cursor on the wall and click to draw, I now have that manufacturer's window and all of its dimensions and options associated with it being drawn onto the plan. Okay, so this is a little bit different than the generic window, which all of our dimensions are even, 4 feet by 5 feet. In this case, this product code matches the manufacturer's literature, okay, inside the library. And these are fully customizable, so you can go in if there's a manufacturer that you use and we don't have it in there, you can certainly go in and in a expeditious manner set it up for you. Okay. So again, the library stays open as long as you don't press OK. You can simply pick the window type that you want to draw and position your cursor on the drawing and click. All right, and it automatically stays open for you. Okay, the next thing that we'll do as far as adding openings into the plan is actually adding a couple of doors. All right, so if I come in through draw an opening here inside the plan view, and this time I'm going to go to the interior door, and we've got a host of types of doors that are there, and so in this case I'm simply going to pick the panel. And if I come down here and select the 32 by 80, you can see I've got a series of different panels that are available. So in this case, a 32 by 80 3-panel door, and the one indicates one leaf as opposed to a double door. Okay, when you go to draw this, and just for the sake of declutterizing the screen, I'm going to close that menu and zoom this up. And what you will see is when I hover my cursor over that wall, in this case the horizontal wall, depending on which way I move my cursor, I'm going to have it either left or right hand hinged, and also up or down is going to determine whether or not that door swings into the room or out from the room. Okay, so we're really just establishing left or right, reverse or non-reverse type door. And this is all done just by moving your mouse. And so I position my cursor where I want the door to be placed, and it's going to draw that 32 by 80. This is now a right-hand hinge door. And so again, I'll do the same thing here. But this time I'll move my cursor to the outside, and so it's now in my opinion, a right-hand reverse door, okay, because of which way I move the cursor. All right, doors can be fully modified so that you can change this on the fly. You can always come in and do a right-click edit on a door, and there's too many things in a menu for me to go through right now. But the biggest thing that you'll want to see as a beginner, as you're starting with SoftPlan, is how do I change door hinge sides if the plan changed, etc. You can simply come in and check on the display tab whether or not you're going to reverse the door swing or reverse the hinge side. So that was just from the top, edit the door, click the display tab, and these two boxes act like toggles, to flip the door one side to the other. Okay. The last type of door that you would put in would be like an exterior type entry style door. So again, there is a difference between the exterior and the interior doors. Okay, so make sure you're drawing them from the correct libraries. It will impact your bill of materials for passage hardware versus locking hardware, etc. All right, but if I come in through the exterior door, I can select, let's say, the entry style, and you will see in here we've got a host of entry doors that are set up for you. And then again, you can go through and you can define these to suit what your design calls for. So in this case, I have selected a 60 by 80, in other words, the dimensions of this. Left hand, as indicated by the dotted line, entry door with 2 side lights. And so once I've selected that, I can position the cursor on the drawing and click. And as I do that, it's going to position the door in the wall for me to see. There's my door. There's my windows that I've drawn, and in the actual plan itself, I've got, a couple of interior doors that are opening in there. Okay, so there is a lot more to SoftPlan, obviously, that you would do. There's going to be things like editing of openings, etc. But the key to this is just learning some of the, early fundamentals to get you started. All right. Keep in mind, you can, go to draw and select anything from the ribbon bar, but you can also right-click and pull up this item right here, to get you into that menu, quickly. Keep in mind that most of these functions have a shortcut to them. So the S would be draw select, and you'll be able to go in and quickly get to a menu item by hitting that on the keyboard. The last thing that I would point out that you might stumble upon is if you double right-click, you're going to get this floating toolbar right here, okay? And it is basically, access to some of the, tool icons that you're going to use, such as move, for example. So rather than coming up here and finding move and then selecting it from here, the floating toolbar already has that, set up. And again, this is something that you can customize and use as well. So just by double right clicking, you will pull that up. All right, that is what I have for you today for SoftPlan fundamentals, getting you started as far as the basics are concerned. I hope that you've enjoyed it and hopefully picked up a few tips on using it. And I look forward to possibly getting some feedback from you, because we will be following up with a questionnaire to see how you enjoyed it. In the coming weeks, I will just throw this out for you. We do have one on SoftList, and we have a Q&A session with one of our senior tech support staff members, and those are also coming up on the Friday. So just stay posted for those and anything else that's coming up. Have a great day, guys. Bye.